Just go ahead and share my screen. Oh, there we go. Well, gosh, in job search, we have a lot of different options to think about. Biggest thing we hear in job search is have to apply online, right in the bottom of that ad, must apply online. Usually must include compensation requirements. That's really how little to pay you. So let's not just fall in the trap of following directions. Today is a very special one. This is how to market yourself directly to the decision maker. If we find ourselves brave enough to think about maybe hesitating in our applying online process, why don't I short circuit getting in line with 1,000 to 2,000 people? Maybe I should go directly to the decision maker where I might be in line with 8, 10, 12 people in competition. Boy, that's a different competition. 8, 10, 12 people versus 1,000, 2,000 resumes. Really going to the wrong people. We're going to talk all about that today. This is marketing yourself to the decision maker with direct outreach. It will require a paradigm shift in the way we look at job search. So let's start here. Don't let somebody else think for yourself. Let me get a tissue. Saw this on a t-shirt walking into Chinatown about 8 o'clock in the morning before pandemic. Used to go into the subway and like everybody else, a million things going through my head. I got all this going on here. Lead, follow, get out of the way. I got to get to my destination. I look up and suddenly I see this on somebody's t-shirt. Don't let somebody else think for yourself. Now, what actually caught my attention was a gigantic hog up on this guy's shoulder. I look up and I see this giant hog. I'm like, oh, not something you see every day. If you've not seen one of those things in real life, oh my gosh, a lot of bacon on that thing. It's very, very large. My first thought was, how is this guy not toppling over? But, he was a pretty stout guy. So, yes, the hog caught the initial attention, but boy, that message really resonated. You're going to have to put down that smartphone or smart device or whatever it might be. You're going to have to put away the distractions. You're going to have to get behind the wheel, or you're not likely to get to the destination you're thinking about. This is going to require a complete paradigm shift in our job search. Disregarding this mantra we've been taught for a very long time. Well, must apply online, must wait your turn, must just wait to hear while somebody else takes our opportunity. I don't think so. We're going to have to go through quite a transformation, a metamorphosis. We're going to have to shed some skin. We're going to have to become this beautiful new incarnation of ourselves, whatever that might be. To get there, we're going to have to use a lot of unconventional thinking, a lot of creative interpretation. These light bulb moments are going to have to connect together, adding some clarity, simply changing the rules that you never agreed to in the first place to change the equation in your job search. Our personal branding is going to have to come into it very, very deeply if we're going to be successful. Personal branding, the mistake that we make, and please do revisit my lectures on resume renovation, LinkedIn, and how to use it for your job search, and really all the ways you have to build your brand. The biggest mistake, people want to go, oh, I want to be perfect. I want to be cookie cutter perfect. I would like to be interchangeable cookie cutter perfect. Fantastic. You're interchangeable cookie cutter perfect. You know what happens now? I can pay you less. Number 3, I'll take you. I'll take you, number 3. I'm paying you less. You don't want less? Number 2, number 5, number 7. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to take one of you folks that are interchangeable and perfect, and I'm going to pay you less. Because if you don't want less, the one next to you will take less. Somebody in this line is taking less. Just being interchangeable or cookie cutter perfect means you have lots and lots of competitors. You have to achieve that level of interchangeability, but also somehow be separate, different, special. You essentially have to find a way to get out of line at the same time that you're satisfying that. Outreach and messaging during the pandemic has gotten a lot more complex. So many more communication channels, so many more messages shooting out everywhere, so many people not willing to read. We have to learn to be very, very succinct. To create engagement, we're going to have to make this more of a mechanized or mechanical outreach. Oh, yes, lots of warm heart and humanity mixed in, but the actual mechanics of how it works, you have to look at like a machine. Well, maybe it's an old, rusty, old-fashioned lawnmower. You know that lawnmower that might have been sitting all winter long, kind of in storage, and we pull it out, and it's that old-fashioned kind. You have to pull the cord, and you pull it and it chokes, and you pull it and it chokes, and you pull it and choke, and then suddenly it starts up. That's what we have to do to start our engagement engines. We're going to have to get our messaging out there. We're going to constantly have to evaluate whether or not we're doing the right thing. Is this the best use of my time at this moment? Yes. A lot of times people think, well, maybe I could just apply for 10 jobs and see what happens. Well, you could. Applying online, and how does that typically work for most folks? Not very well. We usually sit back and go, but I'm perfect. Why haven't they called me? I'm perfect. Is this the most effective use of my time? Was that effective, using all that time that way? Maybe what we can do is carve out our time, realize how precious it is, and then invest a little bit of it in direct outreach to see a dramatic difference in our job search. If you've not seen me before, John Krant, author, career coach, and speaker, resume and LinkedIn guru as well. So if your career brand is not achieving the luster it needs to, if your story is not elevated the way it needs to be seen by others in your industry, I know just the right person you should work with. All my packages are over on my website, right under the services tab. Of course, you can reach out anytime if you'd like to talk beforehand. Job search is a sales process. Well, it's really two things. It's a sales process mixed with our worst nightmare ever, a dating process, sales and dating process all together. So we're going to have to think about that as we go after the job, because it's not as easy as just going after it. Oh, I'm going to get it. Everybody's sitting back doing that same thing you're doing, hitting that darn button. By the way, almost never says apply, almost always says submit. All capital letters, like we're so submissive. It's like a Friday night waiting for the phone to ring. Oh, it's going to ring. It'll be a telemarketer when it does. And that's going to leave us back here in some very unhappy places. So this is part of the human condition. Don't let this get you down, but it is a benchmark. So the things that make you unhappy and all these other things on the list have to motivate you to change something, because problem solving is the most important part of any serious project you've ever worked on. Think of the most serious things you've worked on in your career. Problem solving is part of that. Your job search is the most important project you've ever worked on right now. And job search is a sales process. All of it involves problem solving. So if we're going to reach out and introduce ourselves to the actual decision makers, just who is it that makes these decisions? Who is the decider? Well, good news is even though there may actually be one decider, there's really rarely one decider. There's all sorts of influences around this, folks. So don't be too distracted by, oh, that's the hiring person. Great. Maybe their boss or even their boss would be other ones that you could get involved in discussions with that could influence how the boss thinks about you. So we have to find these decision makers, whatever field that we're in. You see what's up here? It's not really very difficult. You know the field that you work. You're familiar with it. Your titles may be a little bit off, left or right of this, but generally this is how the hierarchy works no matter what area you're in. I want you to begin to think about not only who does this report into, but who's that person's boss and who's that boss's boss. That, by the way, is called top-down selling, getting to the person further up the food chain, which is not afraid of you. They are not afraid of you at all. They think of you as a potential strategic asset, and that person is very, very open to be influenced on how their team could be better, how their performance could be better, how much you're in love with what you see going on at this company. Not some open job that you see. That's all about you. And you have to understand the difference between what you do or don't talk about on a date. Ever been on a date with Mr. Me, and a little more me? Is there going to be a second date with Mr. Me? I don't really think so. Not unless we're going to the Four Seasons or someplace that I really have on my list. Otherwise, there's no second date here. So, here again, it's not about you, even though it really is. It's about them. That is how you influence them. So creating a job search plan, and if we're going to do outreach, there has to be a little bit of a plan. Please do go back and check out my Supercharging Your Job Search lecture. That is the deep lecture all on what an actual plan looks like. Today, we're going to zoom in quite tightly on how we reach those decision makers. So go back and fill in the blanks with the other lecture, and this one will help you. Just a recap of a basic, correct, full job search plan. This is upending what we've been told. Oh, have to look for jobs that are open, have to apply for the ones that are right. Well, first off, 50% of all those jobs that you see posted out there, by my research, not real at all. For a job posting to be real, they have to be ready to identify the right individuals. When they identify the right individuals, they have to set an interview date. When they go through enough interviews and they've identified, several or at least one qualified individual that is right for this role, they have to move that to the next level. And when they finally decided which one is the right chemistry match for the team, they have to be willing to set a start date and salary and put an offer out. All of that is required for that to be a real job posting and not just the looky-loos. Oh, I'll just post something that I may hire someday that has no relevance on today. How does this happen? Because all those job posting ads, those spots, which are advertising spots, those are sold up to 1 year in advance and they expire. Use them or lose them in 12 months. No idea 6 months or up to a year ago what they're hiring today. Very quickly, they just begin to post things they may hire someday. Ends up half of the job postings not even being real in the first place. Upend the entire process by going after the 30 companies you are absolutely dying to work on, dying to work there. Changes everything. If I walked into a room of random people and said, hey, anybody want to go on a date? Anybody want to go on a date? Maybe somebody might go, are we going to the Four Seasons or someplace I want to go? Only interested in the restaurant. Nobody wants to go on a random date with some random person looking for some random match. They want to go on the date with the person that wants to go out with them. So again, select these organizations or companies that you have to work for. Oh, I have to work for this brand. I have to work for this company. And then it's real. The rest of it just works. Devising the steps needed. Well, we're going to go through those today, but really it's about teaching yourself to think like a detective, a little bit of a Sherlock Holmes. Okay, what John's saying isn't really possible, but if it was, how do I align the sun, the moon, the stars working backwards to figure out the steps? Not really that difficult. Discover the decision makers. Well, we'll show you directly in this lecture how to reverse search on LinkedIn. A deeper view of that is also in my LinkedIn lecture. We'll reverse search those decision makers. We'll find them. And what was their title? Decision makers. You know what their job is? To object to you. So why, when they object to you, do you get all like, they objected to me? When I hear an objection, you know what happens in my brain? Because I know they wouldn't waste oxygen. They would not waste oxygen. They're objecting to me because they want to see how I will put together my thoughts, how I will overcome that objection in conversation, how I will put them at ease, because they'd never waste time on this conversation if they didn't think, oh, maybe. Have to see if I can trap you, stumble you, cause you to go off your platform with this and see how you hold your thoughts together. Overcome those objections, get the meeting, dazzle them. Have them either give you that job or create the job for you when they realize what a wonderful addition you are. That's a real job search plan. Now, the 30 companies, I know that's a tough one. I could never come up with 30 companies. Okay. Can you come up with 10? Can you come up with just 10 companies you're dying to work for, dying to work there? By the way, the dying to work there, as a reminder, cannot be because you see some open job. That's about you. That's not real desire to work there. That's a desire for that job. That's something totally different. Go find the companies you really want to work for, their brand, their reputation, their product. I don't know what it is. Something will appeal to you. Then stack rank those. Which ones is my heart closest to? Gosh, those are the ones I want to date first. Try to get the match first. Even better if we can come up with a company list that are statistically perfect to hire you. I'll show you a couple different ways to create this list. And by the way, there's a longer showcase of how to create this list in my LinkedIn lecture, so be sure to watch that. How to create these statistically perfect lists. You know why? Because they would hire you today if they had an opening. The only unknown is, do they have an opening? We'll take you through that whole piece. Now, job search is a sales process. So we're going to choose the companies. We're going to select our target audience, not just the decision maker. I need to warm up all the people around that. So I'm going to select 25 to 30 people that somehow surround who I perceive to be the decision maker. Up the food chain. Don't be shy. Down, all the way down to admin level. Very strategic reasoning. Left and right. into some other surrounding departments. A nice, healthy mix of 25 to 30 people that would likely interact with me probably every day once I step into this role. I'm going to begin to warm those folks up. Now, if I am in LinkedIn, I open their profiles, I trigger a marketing event. That's like taking a little hook, fish hook, and taking a little worm and put a little worm on it and tossing it out into the pond and being brave enough to wait for it to wiggle around until it draws attention and someone clicks on it. The goal is to get someone to click on your name to open up your full sales brochure all about you. So 25 to 30 individuals, I open their profiles, so I'm looking at them. 6 people have looked at you. Who's looked at me? Oh, this guy's really good. Oh, we need one of these for our team. Oh, what's that background? Draw them into your story. Open the profiles. I'm asking them to connect. This is a second hook, a second worm. 2 things now in the water wiggling around, waiting to draw attention. By the way, a lot of people may not connect with you until after they interview you. Don't take it personally. Oh, yeah, I like the connection, but the point is to get them to click on your name to open your sales brochure, and then suddenly they can read all about why you're the best thing since sliced bread. Out of this mix, now, since it's a sales process, there is no waiting. Out of this whole list of 25 to 30 people, I've already opened, I've already asked to connect. Don't wait for a single answer. The answer itself is irrelevant. It's a sales process. So I've opened, I've asked to connect, and now I simply look back with a laser focus at my 25 to 30 people, and I go, who do I think, because your opinion is the only one that actually matters, who do I think are the 3, 4, or 5 people that would somehow be involved in the conversation to hire a person like myself? And for each of those, I'm going to directly outreach. I've already opened, I've already asked to connect. I didn't wait for the answer. Now I directly outreach by real email, not in-mail, not inside of any system, real email, right into their email. Not brain surgery to get anybody's email. 99% of the people you can get within 2 or 3 minutes really quickly. So I'm going to email directly to each one of them as if each one is the only person in the world. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. Well, we're going to go over the whole script, everything else. Notice the bottom here. Repeat, 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 repeat. You have to make this a mechanized system where it connects with them emotionally, but really it's mechanical until someone goes, oh, I'm interested. And you go, you are? And you draw them in. Now, behind this is the basic concept of a sales funnel. Pretty basic sales funnel. I think most of us at least have seen one of these sales funnels by this time in our career. But the point of a sales funnel is to understand the more activity that you put in at the top, the more it can distill down into something very, very important. If there's very little activity going in at the top, very unlikely it's ever going to distill down to something that you really, really want. So you have to have a lot of activity. And if you have an actual real plan, oh my gosh, you can produce multiple offers for yourself, potentially, so that you have choice. Now, if you're going to go after potentially producing multiple offers, that means you have to constantly juggle going after 10 organizations simultaneously. And while going after 10 at a time may not sound that difficult, keep in mind with every one of them, I'm going after, well, let's reverse search the company. Let's find 25 to 30 people. Let's open and ask them to connect. Let's drill down and find 3 to 5 people I can introduce myself to. Let me email out to each one of those. And that's all just the first round. Because if they don't respond, your job is to produce the meeting. You're the salesperson. You have to go after them for a second, third, fourth round of outreach if they don't respond. So it escalates activity level very, very quickly with the goal of producing 1 brand new interview per week, which is a very tough goal. But if you're producing 1 new interview a week, very likely you'll be able to get multiple offers either to the table at the same time or near the same time, which is very, very important. Now, drill down a little further. We're going to connect with these people. We're warming up our target audience. That's the whole point of it, creating familiarity. Again, selecting the 25 to 30 up and down the food chain, left and right, open, ask to connect, beginning to warm them up, create the familiarity. So when the conversation happens behind the scenes, oh, look at this individual that sent their stuff in. Oh, they look so sharp. Oh, and it's familiar because you've already warmed up that audience. By the way, when you do connect with people, Even if I see an open job, I never, ever mention an open job. It's simply a message that says, you don't know me, I'm professionally appropriate, here's a little bit of a stroke to your ego, and it's as simple as I like to connect with other professionals in our niche, depending how we like to say that. And of course, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. It says, you don't know me, I'm professionally appropriate, little stroke to the ego. Oh, out of the 25 to 30, you probably get 10, 12 acceptances very quickly. I know you want them all. That's not the point. The point is to get them to read about your background over and over before an interview actually happens. Now, as I'm really discovering all of this information about companies, who the players are, who are the 25 to 30 people I want to influence, you're building equity in your job search, not only for this time, but even for future times. So I hope you download these forms. They're free right off my website, SelfRecruiter.com, under the advice tab. We'll show you how to get to those later. These forms, basically, you want to sit and develop a company sheet for each target company you're interested in. Who are the players? What have I done so far? What should be my next step? What if they don't respond? Small changes change perception, and also they change your effectiveness. Now, in today's world, your script is probably going to have to change as well. If you don't use a script, you're not going to be very effective. Very few people can be really sharp off the cuff. They haven't done it enough. If you simply work on a really great script, learn your script and relax into it, then you can be gentle, relaxed, confident, and off the cuff, someone they can't resist hiring. But if I'm going to hire you today, I want to make sure you can work remotely. I want to make sure you can be effective remotely. If you've not worked remotely before, probably in a little bit of a panic. But all the things up on screen here are aspects of working remotely, even if you didn't typically work remote. But this illustrates being able to work at a distance. Or maybe you've given talks, or maybe you do conferences or conference calls or webinars. All of that are illustrations of being able to work remotely. Those elements of your story may have to come into the story if they have not previously been in there. But let's get back to these decision makers, and not just the decider, but really all the people that might be involved, because this is about influencing each one of them to go that, wow, life gets easier, results get better if I just go after these people. So whether it's the boss up the food chain, your peer subordinates, anybody that you're after, we can get to those decision makers from several different angles. One of them might be name mentions. If you are living and breathing your profession, I sure hope you are reading about your profession, books, articles, blogs, everything that's right for your industry, the company websites themselves. These name mentions are decision makers. Those are people that you can go after. Yes, they know exactly what you're doing. This is what every salesperson does, and it works because we're human beings. There could be referrals. Let me get a little drink. You could be in a conversation and that person really likes your background. They go, but John, we just hired the last person for our team, so we're not really expecting a new hire probably until sometime after January. And I'm like, oh, congratulations, Jack, Jim, or Jill. It's always wonderful to have your team filled. I'm not really happy about that, by the way. But then I could go after a referral. Jack, Jim, Jill, if you had my background, what am I missing? Who are the, in this segment, who are the best 2 individuals you've ever worked with that you think I should probably network with? Yeah, there's all sorts of ways that you could elicit a referral from all those wonderful conversations. So that's a wonderful thing that could help you. But primarily what you're going to do is use LinkedIn. Now, I give a deep, long version of this in my LinkedIn lecture, the full LinkedIn lecture. So if this one's a little too short for you, go back and watch the longer version. But combining a reverse search of LinkedIn with our own understanding of how organizational charts work in our field, it becomes a game changer. So if you go over to LinkedIn, this is the unified search box at the top of any page. It's identical on any page, doesn't really matter. I'm going to go in there and begin to search. So if I decide the first company on my list is Informatica, by the way, used to be one of my cash cows as a recruiter, made a lot of placements with them. As you begin to type out Informatica, it's going to give you this drop-down list. Oh, don't you click on that drop-down list. That's a trip down the rabbit hole. Just don't do it. Type what you'd like, hit enter. Then you're going to get this nice secondary sorting process. And really, I am looking for the people that work at Informatica, but as long as I'm here, I'm guessing there must be 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 other companies that aren't even on my radar that I must be aware of. Because if I'm right to work for Informatica, I must be right for those. So let's see, companies. Oh, there, they just hit it a little bit. Where's companies? Companies. Tell me the companies. 34,000 companies under the word Informatica. What's going on here? Okay, well, a few dozen of them are titled Informatica this, Informatica that. But after you get past that list, who are the rest of these people on this list? All system integrators, used to be my field. Everybody down on this list either resells or installs Informatica software. If I am right to work for Informatica, I am very likely statistically right to work for a great number of these companies. This is another method to build statistically perfect lists. You could connect the dots, put in each employer you've ever worked for to see, even if you're scratching your head, you can see other companies that would like to hire you. Why are they here? I don't know, but I bet you they'd like to hire your background. It's one of the reasons it's coming up. But eventually you do have to get to people. So we go back in, no, show me the people. And we dig in and go, oh, 2.5 million. I never get through that list. And I use the free version of LinkedIn. So it doesn't let me search a lot. It lets me search a little bit before they eventually slap my hand. But free version, I'm going to have to put my thinking cap. Maybe I don't need everybody. I need ones that are in the US. And I don't need someone that worked for Informatica 3 years ago. I need someone that currently works for Informatica now. So currently working for Informatica, currently in the US. And what do I get? What do I get? Oh, 1,615 results. Oh, we're getting much better than the thousands and thousands. But I can't look at 1,600 profiles either. I'm going to have to do some more thinking cap work here. Even on the free version, go right in. I think it's a VP. Look at that, simple VP. I think it's a VP that'll hire me. Really US, really Informatica. 75 VPs. So, gosh, a lot of chiefs at that company. Let's think about this. Maybe it's a director. Maybe it's a director because it's brainstorming to find the answer. Director, really US, really Informatica director. 228 directors. I'm going the wrong way here. Oh, I have it. You know why? Because it's detective work, it's brainstorming, it's problem solving. You know what it is? It's a sales director I need right within New York City. Even on the free version. What do I get? 3. I'm looking for 3 to 5. By the way, 3 is good enough. Do you think I'm ever happy with good enough? My results get better if I have 5. So if I could find a couple more. So you know what? Maybe there's a sales VP, not just a sales director. Maybe there's a sales VP in New York. Let's go take a look at that. And 2 more. Fantastic. Now I have 5. I have 5 individuals I can reach out to. I can ask to connect. Each one of them, as long as you're valuable, doesn't matter who they are, they know exactly who the decision maker is and they know how to connect that. Sometimes along the way, I get frustrated with this in-mail. I hope we understand what in-mail is. Spam. The literal definition of spam. It is paid email. It may not seem like spam to you, but I can tell you as a target, and that's who you're emailing. HR folks, recruiters, decision makers, that gets tremendous outreach. So my inbox on LinkedIn is filled with well over 1,000 unopened messages, just endless spam barraging me night and day. So don't play that game. Nick here, I really do want to connect to him, but even when I load his profile, they frustrate me with the send in mail. But just behind the ... they just hid the connect down the line. They can't really hide that too far from you. And there's that message you write one time ever, copy and paste forevermore. I like to connect with other professionals in our niche. And of course, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. You don't know me, professionally appropriate, little stroke to the ego. Blend all of that process to your 25 to 30 people. Find them, open them, ask them to connect, get them looking back at your profile, which should be a 3-dimensional sales brochure. Then drill down without waiting for the answer. Drill down to the 3, 4, 5 people you think out of that group somehow would be the ones to have the conversation, and capture that information. And then manage your interaction so you can actively think about what that next step might be. By the way, if this is your next step, hi, this is John. I'd like you to hire me. How'd you get my number? Take me off your list. Never call me again. Security doesn't go well. I sure hope that your outreach doesn't look like that. That is not very effective. This is about utilizing our soft skills to develop a relationship channel, an ongoing communications channel that I could revisit at any time. One of the best ways to begin this is what I call a 1-2 combination marketing campaign. So I'm going to write an email, but not send it. It's ready to send. I could send it. It's beautiful. I could click send, but I don't. Then part 2 is reaching out by telephone. Oh, I know that is so scary. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Well, I'm shy and introverted, and I found a way to force myself to get into recruiting where I had to get past all that shy introversion, even though it's still just under the surface, to be able to pick up the phone and call people I don't know and to sell to them, which is terrible. But in job search, we have to do it. So really, you have to give yourself permission to get into the gray area where you're uncomfortable. You reach out to the decision makers. The reason you're going to call, even though it's going to go to voicemail 99% of the time these days, because they can't hear your passion in an email. They can hear your passion in a voicemail. Now, the key to a voicemail is to learn how to leave one without going into voicemail voice. Oh, ding, 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 ding. Oh, hi, Jack, it's John. Why did your voice go up into the clouds like that? When the go goes, beep. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Krant. I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited about what I see going on at XYZ company. By the way, I saw that Wall Street Journal article on your new such and such launch. Oh, those things are always so good to get. Jack, my background is all with companies like ABC Company, where I have really handled challenges like this one over and over again. I would love to either come in or set up a meeting where I can share how we overcame all those issues I bet your team's experiencing. Then you have to be brave enough to go for the jugular. I have an opening on my calendar, Tuesday at 10 a.m. One day, one time, never more. And then hand off control to them. Might that work for a brief meeting? Might makes them feel in control, as if there's any control here. And brief solves the only real problem. Don't waste my time. Oh, it's brief. It's brief. I can handle a brief meeting. I never actually name the time. It's just brief. Then, of course, sales process. You're the salesperson. You have to set expectations. So the closing line to manage the expectations and to set the expectations. Looking forward to a great discussion with a dash. Guess this guy thinks he's going to meet with me. Yes. Why would you not meet with me unless you are not qualified for your role, or something even scarier? You're threatened by me because I'm going to take your next job. With this outreach, the reason why we do it this way, the write the email, pick up the phone and dial, because if you're doing it often enough, you'll leave a bad voicemail eventually. If you never leave a bad voicemail, you are not leaving enough voicemails. When you leave enough voicemails, you'll make a mistake sooner or later and you'll leave a bad one that you can't re-record. And you go, oh, I thought I could re-record. Happened to me when I was right in training my very first week as a recruiter, and terrible voicemail, and was that the voicemail? Was that? Redial. You can't leave it like that. Redial. Right now? Right now. Best lesson I ever got. Of course, I was mortified in the moment. Like, don't make me redial. Boy, good things happen when you redial. You learn, if people hang up on you previously, they'll never hang up on you a second time, as long as you give them a way to save face. Oh, gosh, I get disconnected. I was trying to reach Jack Smith. They're like, oh, I'm sorry. I was having a busy day. How can I help you? And then they really help you the second time. So if I did leave a bad voicemail, that's why I haven't sent the email. I left a bad voicemail. Ouch. Now I can click in front of the email, which essentially says exactly what I wish the voicemail would have said, and said, sorry about that voicemail. Didn't want you to lose sight of the fact that I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. You can recover very, very quickly. If you fall on your sword and just be a human being, boy, people will give you a lot of latitude. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to have to use every bit of your soft skills to win them over, every bit of their nuance of communication, every level of interaction is a chance to really show your value about your brand. Everything that could potentially separate you out from others, everything that makes you not only interchangeable and capable, but also a standout. Influencing the decision maker. You have to think about those competitors. A lot of them talk a good game and don't really deliver. Part of this whole outreach process is you taking control of the discussion. Now, your outreach could be casual, direct, indirect, Just remember this, it's always about them before it's ever about you, whether you're approaching them through social media shares or comments or posts, or you could send them links to different things. Gosh, I saw this article and thought of the challenges at your company. I'd love to talk with you. All sorts of ways to create interest as long as you keep it about them. We're trying to avoid creating one-off scenarios that we can't revisit, an email that I can't really follow up on, all these types of things. We want to manage this communication so it's effective to create engagement, which is really, really close to those two things mixed together. That's the ultimate influence. Ideally, we're going to have to look at every bit of our, not only physical tools that we may interact with, like LinkedIn and other things like that, but also these soft skill abilities you bring to the table. Those can be improved. Let's go into the script itself, because that's where most of the work has to happen. Now, this is a 30-second script to make it or not make it. Hi, this is John. I'd like you to hire me. Well, there's not too much interest there. Let's analyze a few different scripts, and we're going to point out what works and what doesn't work. So let's look at this first one here. Who is this first message going to be about? Let's look at some highlights here. I wanted to introduce myself to you. I'm Jack Smith. I'm an expert. I'm looking. This is really close to Mr. Me. Now, I could say it in a really nice way. Oh, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Jack Smith. I'm an expert at A, B, and C. I'm looking for a new opportunity. I'd be a valuable asset to your company. I'd love to meet with you. Sure, when I say it like that, it actually sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But the subtext of what's going on underneath is me, 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 me. And you better believe the subtext does communicate. You need to shift that to a much more effective approach, because you don't want to trigger, who cares what you want in the brain? You're interrupting my day. So let's go back and think about visualization, how you can get someone to imagine why you're valuable. Gosh, what I do is very, very interesting. You know what architects are very good at? Architecture. You know what they're not very good at? Running their business. That's what I do. I've run the back end of several architectural firms. In fact, I'm looking for a new opportunity right now. No matter how nicely I say that or not, let's analyze what's really here. Oh, what I do is very interesting. Back story for this one. This is actually a client from years ago that was unemployed, and they were coming up with their script, their elevator pitch. I call it the best 25 seconds of your life, because it really needs to be about 25 seconds or less. And they were unemployed at the time, and they had come to one of my lectures that has a lot of technique in it, my interview intervention lecture. Then they went out to meet some friends for dinner and got there a little early. And obviously, long pre-pandemic, goes up to the bar to sit and have something while they're waiting. They see this random person 2 seats down. Oh, well, I think I'm going to try some of these techniques John was teaching today on this random person here. Struck up a conversation, which means it's all about them till they run out of oxygen. And suddenly they go, what do you do? I'm glad I waited. What I do is very, very interesting. You know what architects are really good at? Architecture. You know what they're not very good at? Running their business. In fact, that's what I do. I've run the back end of several architectural firms now. In fact, I'm looking for a new opportunity right now. I didn't give any detail of what this person's doing, and yet you have the full scope and imagination of what they could potentially do. Before the end of that conversation, they were exchanging business cards. Let me look in our database. Let me see what I can find for you. Let me see who I can connect you up with. Let's look at this next one. We're going to bump it over to where we can see the analysis piece here. Creating interest again. You should be as long or as short as you need to. Obviously, as short as you can be, but sometimes you do have to have a longer version. Gosh, I just had to reach out and introduce myself. I'm so excited by what I see going in the XYZ company. Congrats, by the way, on the very nice feature I read in the Wall Street Journal. My background includes handling a similar launch that I read about in the article, and handling all those issues I'm guessing you might be experiencing with this launch. I'd love to come in and meet with you. I can share how we overcame the launch issues. Carrot, just have to have a big carrot to get the meeting. By the way, let's look back at this. I never said I was looking for a job. Crystal clear. I never say I'm looking for a job. Why would I say that? If you say you're looking for a job, if you say the words like, oh, I'd love to interview, that reminds them of all the things they were not supposed to do and get you kicked to HR. So I don't use any of that verbiage. We step away from that. We learn to go for the jugular. I have an opening on my calendar. My calendar. Words are very, very important. You have to be absolutely equal to every single person that you speak with. I don't care if that's the CEO of the company or the person that cleans the CEO's office. Absolutely equal. I will never speak up to anyone, certainly never speak down to anyone. Think about how you're going to change your communication style. Small changes change perception. Really important. So this is a repeat. We're going to skip that one. Think about creating a little bit of interest in your job search, because your job search is this sales process. It's this dating process. The more valuable your approach, the more valuable every single word is, will open doors for you. And you have to think about that. So be persuasive. You've got 30 seconds to live or die. You can go download this whole thing on my SelfRecruiter website. Just go to the advice tab, look for the job search management system. You can just download it for free. And once you download it, you'll have these forms that will help you go through and download this piece of it. This particular form, we're just going to take you through the last piece of the form, is how you write a script. Now, you're not going to write the script right this moment. All this text on the left side of the page will help remind you of what I'm teaching you right now when you go to actually work on your script. Let's take you through the structure of the script. We're going to greet them professionally, hopefully. We're going to wait for the response. We're going to acknowledge the response, good, bad, or ugly. You cannot pretend you did not hear that thing, whatever it was. Now, if we went to one of those schools, there's only about this many. If we went to one of those schools, my gosh, do we mention it? If we did not go to one of those schools, set the education aside. Oh, I know you're attached to it. Set the education aside. That's not what you're selling at this moment. Go right for the jugular with 2 or 3 key things, accomplishments, deliverables that would make them jump right out of their chair. Closing, scary sales term, simply means ask for what you'd like. Well, that's only half. That's only half. That is not closing. Plus asking for agreement to it. Nobody wants to ask for the agreement to it. That's where they go, no. Closing required. Now, I want you to think about what this sounds like. So I'm going to just do it a little bit off the cuff. Hey, good morning, Jack. It's John Krant. How are you this morning? Now, when I would teach recruiters this, and sometimes it was virtual and conference teaching, and sometimes they'd send them, if they were local, they'd send them into the headquarters. I'd teach them live. And someone in back would go, isn't that what they all say? Yes. This is the usual customer expected. This is why we are going to be successful in starting the conversation, because we work within the structure that everyone's been trained. So yes, I'm going to greet them professionally and give them space to respond because they've been trained. Good, bad, or ugly, they're going to say it. How are you doing this morning, Jack? I'm terrible. Wish they didn't say that, right? I can't pretend I didn't hear it. Well, Jack, let's see if we can change that. Notice I addressed it without speeding up. I continue right along my journey. You know, the reason I reached out to you is I saw your Wall Street Journal article on this new such and such launch, and I have handled a very, very similar launch. And I really wanted to offer you the opportunity I'd love to come in and share how we overcame each of the launch issues. I'd love to share the insight with you. In fact, I have an opening on my calendar Tuesday at 10 a.m. Might that work for a brief meeting? Absolutely. I know that what I have to offer is valuable. I'm not going to get thrown off because they have they're in the middle of a firestorm today. I understand that. I'm interrupting their day. But I don't let that have any effect on me. I address it, I keep moving, deliver the value. As you work on this, just understand you need to talk to the individual like they're a dear old friend you haven't seen in about 5 years, and it works really well. Now, when you do speak with people, you may run into folks that suddenly just hired the last person for their team. Oh, fantastic. Congratulations. Don't miss an opportunity to pat them on the back. I know you're disappointed they just filled the last spot, but wouldn't you like to find out some other information? Like, when is the next expected hire? What would they hire? What would have they never been able to find that if they found that they'd hire? A lot of things I could find here. Who was the last person that departed? Because if they hired, that person departed. I wonder where they went, because maybe there's other opportunity over there. So many things I could discover in conversation if you're brave enough. I hope you develop a list of questions. But after I go through all those questions, picking their brain, then I can also do something else. I can propose a relationship agreement, an ability to call them back with a question. But if it sounds like, can I call you back and bother you? No, don't put me on the list. Now, as a recruiter, I was taught this technique and I thought it was ridiculous at first. I'm like, oh, come on, that doesn't make any sense. And then I tried it. I'm like, oh, it's surprising how this thing works. So it's part of how you're going to balance your assets, bring them very tight to you, those people in your network, and yet not burn them out from continual communications that are unnecessary. So getting an agreement to the relationship is proposing an idea that you may never act upon. Let's look at this. Jack, from time to time, I'll run into something, something quite interesting when speaking to others in the industry. It'd be helpful maybe to run a scenario by you. Would it be okay if I gave you a call for your opinion or advice if something interesting were to come up in discussions? First off, at first glance, it seems ridiculous. The person's going to agree to let me interrupt their day to give my opinion because you're not thinking clearly. These industry managers also live in a bubble. You think they know everything going on. They only know what's going on within their wheelhouse and where the fires are raging. One of the ways they keep up to date is exactly this. Somebody wise and poised and has access to the right people and interesting scenarios. Of course, this person would love to give you their opinion. I always had them agree, and they would say, oh, absolutely. You're rarely going to call them back, but you really want that relationship in place. And even if you never call them back, you'll have a tighter relationship for the future, and they'll remember you in case something does open up going forward. So with every call or with every interaction, you always want to think, what else could I get? What else could I say? What could I leave them thinking? What are they thinking about me? What do they think of my skills? And is there something else? There's always something else that I could be forgetting. Jack, I know maybe you put them in your shoes, looking out of your eyes, giving you ideas. Jack, with your background and position within the industry, if you have my background, where would you look next for opportunity? Oh, I look at XYZ. Oh my gosh, why didn't they tell me before? It's not their job to tell you where to go look for opportunity. It's your job to cause them to think of things to tell you to go where to look for opportunity. That's simply causing a trigger event in their mind. Put them in your shoes, looking out. Jack, what am I missing? What track would you look at? Or what companies would you look at if you had my background? All sorts of ways to ask this. But once you've built the trust and rapport in conversation, whether you get or don't get your goals is irrelevant. Let them give the opinion to you. That's a little bit of them getting brownie points for giving you some good advice, and it will help you. If you do that systematically across all of your conversations, all of your outreach, you realize you're collecting all this information that will make your job search easier. Just to recap, so basic job search steps, we're going to select the companies or organizations that we'd like to go work for. 30 is the number if you'd like to have real results or real choice in potential offers. Select the 25 to 30 individuals at each one, doing a reverse search on LinkedIn. Open those profiles, ask them to connect. Don't wait for the answer. Select the 3, 4, 5 individuals you know are the ones that would be involved in the conversation for you. Reach out to them individually. Book a meeting with as many of them as possible. And repeat. You've got to get this thing running. Each of these are gentle figurative nudges to get this old clunky lawnmower hopped into gear where the engine is roaring. Don't let somebody else think for yourself. Whatever's been holding you back, let's get over that piece and let's make sure we really know our story, are ready to sell our assets off, because that's what it is going to take. Don't be afraid of direct outreach. This direct outreach will help you. This direct outreach is how decision makers are able to separate out really the people that bring the true solution and the people that are just looking for the check boxes from HR. So let's get back in our own job search game and get out there and join in this whole series of SelfRecruiter lectures. It will help you a lot. Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, all those kind of fun things. Do share this with your friends and post to your social networks. And if you need some help elevating your career brand, well, I think you know where to find me over on SelfRecruiter.com. Just look under the services tab. All the packages are there. And if you'd like to chat which one is the right one about you, we can always set up a time to talk before you decide. Thank you guys for joining in, and we'll see you guys soon. Good luck on your job search.